Welcome to this week's Monday Moments. I want to just share a few thoughts to you today about things I have learned, things we've all learned. In fact, I was talking to a mother yesterday on Friday who, whilst being a director of a company, also was mother of 3 children. And those two things have come together in her home again, where she's now having to homeschool children. And she didn't think she'd have to do that in the first quarter of this year. There was frustration in her voice, there was a weariness. The difference was she, this time round, had learned how to do this, and her children, although in tears, 1 or 2 of them, had nevertheless settled down to homeschooling and were just doing their thing. We have learned a great deal, and although it is tough, and I feel for parents who are having to cope with this, Wendy and I are not, our 5 children have all left home, nevertheless, we have learned a great deal. We know how to do this time round. It's not a panic, wearisome as it might seem. I remember a learning experience I went through back in the Jurassic days of September 2019. You might recall those days when human beings actually met in conference halls without masks for real meetings. Perhaps your grandchildren won't believe you when you tell them, but it was real for us, wasn't it? And I was preparing an annual conference presentation, and I asked the organisation if they could allow me to print off workbooks, or if they would print off workbooks for me if I sent them the slides. They said no, and that upset me initially. I thought, wow, right, that's not very kind. I want to give my audience that you've asked me to present to an experience with workbooks, and I think that would help them to engage and interact more than if I were just speaking at them or to them. And they dug their heels in. They said, no, part of our value system is we will do everything we can to protect our environment, which is under threat across the globe on a daily basis. And we won't join in printing off unnecessary documents and chopping down extra trees just to satisfy you or anybody. After listening to that, I thought, oh, well, maybe they have a point. Maybe this is not about me and what I want. Maybe this is about their audience and what might work best for them without popularity clashing against principle, and it often does. And in this case, in this organisation's case, principle won out over popularity. And I was pleased eventually when the conference day came around that they'd dug their heels in and taken that stance as a team. It taught me a lesson. Taught me a number of lessons. As it happened, the experience on that day was just really amazing for both parties. Myself giving the presentation, the audience were very engaged and interacting with me, and 50% plus, in fact more than that, thrust their business card at me afterwards, which is all very gratifying for a speaker. Learned lessons that day. Other lessons Wendy and I have learned. Now, my Wendy, my wife, is upstairs. She now owns the top half of the home daily, and I patrol the bottom half, and that's my territory because she's isolated. COVID came into her workplace when she was passing through to pick up some equipment this week, and she's now with masks and gloves and spraying everything coming in from Amazon, and I'm doing exactly the same downstairs, and I'm cooking meals and delivering them upstairs. So, but we're not panicking because we are fortunate. We've learned some lessons. Some other lessons we've learned recently because of this challenge, this stress, this threat to us is, you know what, we can survive. In fact, we can learn things we would never have learned otherwise, ever, and develop skills we would never have needed before, have our talents and gifts stretched. In our environment, in our neighborhood, there is more compassion shown on a daily basis amongst neighbors who before all 52 homes hardly ever spoke to each other. We just passed by and waved. I now know people and have grown to love them that I never spoken to before, and they've been here for 10 years in the same close. There's kindness, there's concern, there's daily barrage of communication going on between homes, and children running to doorsteps to pick up books that are being given and donated, and equipment that's being donated from one home to another, and even furniture being donated from one home to another. We have learned a great deal of great lessons. So here's my question to you as we conclude this week's Monday Moments. What are you learning right now that is changing you, that you would have never learned were it not for this challenge, this threat to your normal, everyday life? How have you become better? How have you become, as a leader, more concerned, more compassionate, reaching out more frequently to the people who you care about and who depend upon you for their livelihood and their leadership? How has this impacted you? And just leave you with this question: who have you become that is different to the person you were at the beginning of 2020, a year ago? Leave that thought with you for this week's Monday Moments, and leave you to ponder in your own mind, who have I become and what have I learned about me and about my behaviour that is now different and better? Look forward to seeing you in next week's Monday Moments.